I'm Chandler Miranda. I'm a term assistant professor in the Education and Urban Studies Department at Barnard. Today I'll be talking about the concept of sanctuary as it relates to the politics of immigrant education. Today, immigration has changed the demographics of the US significantly. Today, 45 million immigrants are in the United States. It's 22% of the population in New York, and it's 26% of children under 18 are either immigrants themselves or immigrant origin youth. I want to take you back for a moment to 2016 and the months and years after the presidential election. This was a moment of heightened anti-immigrant rhetoric and exclusionary federal policies. In response to the administration and these policies, cities and schools across the country began to declare themselves sanctuaries. This was interesting to me as a researcher because these policies were mostly about non-cooperation. In other words, the goal was to keep ICE out of schools. And so I began to wonder if this was a limit of sanctuary. I also want to bring you into the current moment. This was a picture in the Times a few weeks ago. And to remind you that 5,000 new migrant children have enrolled in New York City schools just this year, many in this neighborhood. And so I think the concept of sanctuary is both timely and an important one to be discussing in terms of its history, its legality, in policy, and in practice. Today, I'm going to focus on two ways sanctuary played out in a study I did, an ethnographic study of a school during this time. And I want to talk about sanctuary both as non-cooperation, but sanctuary also as innovation in response to exclusion. Sanctuary was a distant concept to both me as a researcher, the educators that I study, in the school when this bulletin board was up, and Donald Trump's face kept disappearing and ending up in the boys' bathroom. No one at this school believed he could be elected. Before the election, teachers were interested in teaching immigration to students new to the country about their civic duty and to teach it in a fair and balanced way. But after the election, they kept talking about checks and balances as a safety mechanism for addressing immigrant student needs. But after the Muslim ban, that stopped, and they really turned towards teaching constitutional rights. And this was really in line with the policies that were happening largely in the socio-political environment about non-cooperation and non-compliance. But as I spent more time in the school, I realized that sanctuary can mean lots of other things as well. It can mean innovative responses to exclusionary practices, and this was something that is historic in the sanctuary movements and can be seen more globally. In this school, I eventually came to understand sanctuary as a grounding philosophy of schooling that is innovative in response to exclusionary policies, and I observed these in 5 areas: the deprioritization of English learning, the affirmation of culture and language in the curriculum, the rethinking of approaches and compliance with assessment policy, and then the forging of alliances with outside organizations and accompaniment with families.